The Bible is a living word that reads us as we read it. It's a person, a voice that proves that time is not linear, as one sentence can confirm the past, guide the present, and declare the future. You are here. I am here. He is here. We are here right now, in the tomorrow of yesterday and in the yesterday of tomorrow. I thank you for joining today. So we're back. Thank you so much for joining once again. In our last episode, we talked about before Jacob passed, he made his sons promise to take him back to the land of Canaan. And it was a reminder to them not to get too comfortable in Egypt because Egypt wasn't home. It's not home. And he just wanted his sons, his descendants, to remember the promise of God. So Joseph and his brothers, after Jacob passed, they all got on the road along with a lot of the Egyptian officials, and they took Jacob's remains back to the land of Canaan. And once they paid their respects to Jacob and his legacy, they returned back to Egypt. And Joseph had this interaction with his brothers who were in fear. They were fearful that now that Jacob was no longer there, that Joseph would start treating them out of spite or out of bitterness for the way that they treated him when he was younger. And Joseph made it very clear to them that he wasn't bitter. He was like, yo, we're good. Like, I don't have any bitterness. I have no animosity. Your intentions are very different than what God's intentions are for my life. And because of me being in the right place at the right time, God was able to do incredible things in my life, in your life, and in a lot of people's lives. So Joseph had this incredible demonstration of forgiveness and what forgiveness looks like. It doesn't make the offense right, but he was able to see the hand of God despite the offense. And so after that, some time passed, everybody grew older. Joseph made it clear that he also did not want his remains to be left in Egypt. But he told them, he's like, I know that God is he's going to rescue our people. Like he's going to guide us outside of this place. And when he does, take me with you. Don't leave me here. Take me back home to the land that was promised to us. And so Joseph passed on, they embalmed him, and his brothers eventually in time, they also passed on. So now we have a new generation. We also have a new king. So the Pharaoh of Joseph's days has also passed on. So now there's a new king of Egypt, new generation, new king of Egypt, and now there's also a new norm. So the Hebrews are growing, they're multiplying, and eventually they outnumbered the Egyptians. And when they outnumbered them, they also became stronger. And Pharaoh, the new king of Egypt, saw the people as a threat. And he was like, oh, if we don't do something, this is going to be a problem. So we need to figure out something right now. And we need to do something about them because if a kingdom comes against us and the Israelites align with them, they're going to join our ops and then we're doomed. So what happened was Pharaoh implemented this plan to make the Hebrews their slaves or the Israelites. I'm using the term Hebrew and Israelites interchangeably. Okay. So he made this plan to make the Hebrews their slaves, and they treated them with hard labor, and they just did everything that they could to try to wear them out. Like they wanted to beat them into submission and use fear as a strategy to keep them oppressed. And the more the Egyptians tried to oppress them, the more the Hebrews multiplied, the more they expanded, the more powerful they grew. And the Egyptians continued with every effort that they could to make their lives miserable. So then one day, Pharaoh, he called these two Hebrew midwives, Shipra and Puah. Okay, you don't really hear those names every day. But he called the two Hebrew midwives and he told them, he's like, listen, when these pregnant Hebrew mothers are about to have their babies, I need you to be there and I need you to watch them. And if it's a boy, take him out, kill him. If it's a girl, let her live. Now, I found this very interesting because Shipra and Pua, their very profession, their vocation, their job was to go to these Hebrew mothers and to encourage life, to be there and to support them in the process of birthing something. But this Egyptian king went to them and asked them to do something that was completely opposite of what they were purposed to do in their profession. He said, listen, when they have the babies, if it's a boy, take him out. If it's a girl, let her live. So I love this because Shipra and Pua are unsung sheroes. Okay. So these two women, it says that because they feared God, they refused to do what the king of Egypt ordered them to do. They realized that they took orders from a different king, from a different kingdom. And I'm talking about the kingdom of God. But these two women, they're just like, nah, we ain't gonna be able to do it because they realized that their king, the king of all kings, that God was more powerful than the king of Egypt. So when they had these orders from the king of Egypt to take these boys out, they're like, nah. So they didn't. They refused to follow his orders because they feared. And not like, oh my gosh, there is God. I'm so scared. But they feared him, as in respected him to the nth degree, right? They respected and honored their king, from the kingdom that they operated from, a lot more than they feared or even cared about the orders of the king of Egypt. And so they let the boys live. And I have to give a shout out to these women because the entire Israel nation was hinged upon the fact that they feared God and decided to do something that went against a direct order. So they let the boys live. And it says that God was good to them. He honored these women because of their decision to let these little boys live. And he allowed them to have families of their own. And it just makes me think we want to be significant and we want to be game changers. And we want to live in purpose and we want to make a difference. And Shipra and Pua were minding their business. They were just doing life in their profession. They didn't have to go to some special school. They didn't have to get special credentials. They didn't need somebody sloshing a bunch of oil on them and calling them ordained to live in purpose. They didn't have to do any of these things. They simply took advantage of who they were and how they were positioned, and they partnered their lives and what they were already doing with God. And they recognized that what the king of Egypt was asking them to do was contrary to the promise of God. And they were like, nah, I'm not for it. And I'm not going to harp on this too much, but it wasn't this super spiritual moment. You know, the angels of heaven didn't come down and descend upon Shipra and Pua, and the lights didn't light their path, and they didn't have some significant dream, and a voice didn't open the skies, and they didn't have to fast for a month and a half in order to know what it was that they needed to do. Now, mind you, I'm not knocking any of those things. Nothing is wrong with those things. But let's just appreciate the simplicity of it all. They were given an order from a king who really had no authority over them. They decided, hey, no, I give my yes to God. So my yes to God means no to you. And then they refused to follow the king of the world that they lived in. They refused to follow his orders and they partnered with God and let the boys live. So from there, Pharaoh, when he realized there was a whole lot of little baby boys living amongst the Hebrew people, he called for these women and he's like, yo, Shipra, Pua, what's up? Like, y'all not doing your job too great. He really felt some type of way about that. And they were like, oh, yeah. So what happened was, uh, The Hebrew women, they not like your Egyptian women. The Hebrew women, they are strong. They some vigorous women. And so when they having their babies, they don't like, cry and whine to us, like before we can even get to them, they've already had the baby. So, I mean, that's what happened. And so Pharaoh realized that plan didn't really work. So he came up with a different plan. And what he did was he ended up telling his own people, which is so interesting to me because he first tried to give orders to these Hebrew midwives. And then he decided to use his authority where his authority actually mattered. And he gave an order to his own people, the Egyptians. And he said, when you see a Hebrew newborn boy, throw him in the Nile River. And just this ditch effort, literally, this ditch effort to rid the Israelites of these seed bearing boys. And so it's really interesting to me that his attack was against the boys because boys, they carry seed. And we have to protect our seed as people in the kingdom of God, as believers. We have to protect our seed. And if you think about it, this attack of the enemy on the males in our society today. And I'm not talking about any particular nation, color, ethnicity, origin, none of that. I'm talking about males in general. If you look at the way that the enemy goes after our males, you see he's trying to eliminate the productivity of the people. He's trying to nip it in the bud. He's trying to cut it right there where the nation can no longer expand, where the population can no longer grow, where the power can no longer thrive because it would die with that generation. So we have to protect our seed. And one way we can do that, because not all of us have males that are in our homes or sons that we can influence, but we definitely can do this in prayer and praying for the men of our kingdom, right? Also, just operating in where you are and partnering your yes with God and what it is that He's doing, even if it means going against popular opinion, even if it means that you're doing something that is contrary to what is expected of you from people who are in positions that seem like they are greater than you. Because what if your purpose is as simple as taking a stand on what you believe and going against what is contrary to God? What if it's just that simple? And I also thought it was super, super powerful that the enemy, his real fear was that if these people of Israel, if these Hebrew people partnered themselves with another kingdom, then they could go against the king of Egypt and he would be doomed. And that's the whole message here. If we partner ourselves with the kingdom of God, we subject ourselves to the king above all kings, then we are a threat to the enemy. And I'll tell you myself, when I'm multiplying, when I have determined within my mind and my heart and my spirit that I am going to multiply, I'm going to expand the kingdom of God, I am going to populate heaven as much as I can. The enemy panics. He understands that I am a threat and he tries to make my life miserable and he tries to come against me, but I keep thriving and I keep surviving and I become stronger and I become more powerful. And the same for you, right? The same for you. So here we are. We have another strategy out on the table. And Pharaoh says, yeah, cool. I tried to give orders to the Hebrews. That didn't work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give an order to my people. Throw them in the Nile River. All the little boys, just all the newborn baby boys, throw them in the Nile River. And that's where we're going to stop right now. But what happens when you try to toss the promise of God in the river and the promise of God can float? What do you do then? We will pick up from here in our next episode if the Lord should bless me to be able to record another one. If you have not already gotten your copy of Moses, the Misfit, the Thug, the Called. Now is a really good time to order your copy from IMagineBibleStories.com. That is my shameless plug. I wrote a book called Moses, the Misfit, the Thug, the Called. Pick up your copy from IMagineBibleStories.com. I will leave the link in the description. I will also leave you a coupon code. It will be limited time, so I don't know when you actually listening to this, but I will leave you a limited time coupon code where you can get a discount. It would be a great supplement to what we're going to be studying here together in the next coming weeks. But again, I thank you for your time. Hit like, hit subscribe, share with friends. Leave me a comment. I want to hear from you. I really do want to hear from you. I need your feedback. I want to hear how or if these episodes have been impacting your life. So thank you again. I look forward to our next time. Until then, bye for now.